Hey guys, Rich from Richmond Gaming. Hope everyone's doing fantastically well. Hope you all had a good weekend and happy Monday to everybody. Now, following on from the video 11 rules that catch players out in Marvel Crisis Protocol, I got a lot of really good feedback from lots of our viewers out there giving me suggestions for other rules that caught them out or even rules that they still weren't certain on. So in this video, we're going to cover off 11 more rules that catch players out in Marvel Crisis Protocol. I feel like the 11 number is sticking now. Remember guys to make sure that you are subscribed to the video and that you leave a comment down on this or any other video in the month of July, and you will be with a chance to win one of our brand new Marvel Crisis Protocol character packs. So this one then is fairly straightforward, but it's one that still catches some people out. And when selecting the squad for your game, if you want to utilise the leadership ability of any character, you need to make sure that over 50% of characters you've chosen are from that said affiliation. Now, it's the word over that catches a lot of people out here. And what that means is that it's really 51% or more. So for example, in a squad of 4 characters, a minimum of 3 of those have to be from the said affiliation. However, in a squad of 5, it's still only 3 that need to be in there. So you have over 50% of characters in your squad to unlock your leadership ability, but who can use it? Well, in short, everyone in your squad can utilise that leader's leadership ability, at least at this very moment in time. Tactics cards, however, are somewhat different and can be used exclusively by characters that are part of the affiliation named on the card. So Captain America, Iron Man and Hulk can all use Avengers Assemble, but not you, Spider-Man, not you. So we covered in our last video the timings of attacks and defense rolls, when we can modify dice, but one thing that we didn't cover off in a huge amount of detail were the triggers and the timing of them. So the first thing is, what is a trigger? Well, a trigger is something that is caused by part of an attack or a superpower when you either meet a certain criteria or is just part of that attack that allows you to do something else over and above the damage that you're causing to that enemy character. Now, each trigger will dictate its own timing in the wording of the attack or the ability, or if it's a straight up dice modification, we can refer to the appendix on the rulebook for the timing modifications section. But the key thing that when it is a dice trigger is that that dice needs to be available to the character at the right time in the timing step. So let's take a look at a quick example. So here we have Okoye attacking MODOK with a Vibranium Spear Thrust. She rolls her 5 attack dice and manages to roll the wild needed to trigger both Pierce, allowing her to modify one of her opponent's successes to a blank, and Flurry, allowing her to make up a follow-up strike attack once this attack is resolved. So let's take a quick look at the timings of these two, starting with the modification stage. Neither characters are going to modify their own dice. However, both characters have the ability to modify their opponent's dice. We always start with the attacking player. So here, Okoye can modify one of MODOK's successes to a blank using that Pierce as part of her ability. MODOK can then, however, use Psionic Force Field to change all of Okoye's wild to blanks. Damage is then applied as normal, and any after effects can now be resolved. Now Okoye, however, does not have any wilds left in her dice pool, therefore cannot complete her flurry and perform the follow-up strike attack. It's really important to understand the different terminologies between these 3 phases of the game in Marvel Crisis Protocol, especially when we're using certain superpowers and abilities or playing particular tactics cards that last for a particular duration. A round is the largest of the 3 and starts with the power phase and ends with the cleanup phase. Anything done between these 2 points is considered to be in round. A good example of this is Kraven's Expert Tracker superpower, allowing allied characters to roll an extra die when targeting a chosen character this round. This effect will stay in place until it is removed during the next cleanup phase, irrespective of how early on in the round Kraven has activated and how many attacks have been placed upon that character. Next then is the turn. This is the period of time a player gets to activate characters and play tactics cards, and I think is the one that catches most people out. Lots of superpowers such as Thanos' Death Decree or Lockjaw's Drop It can only be used once per turn. Now the bit that can get quite confusing is when these abilities are combined with something that allows you to attack with or activate multiple characters in the same turn. Let's take a look at the tactics card Follow Me, for example. Here, Magneto has made his 2 attacks, with his second attack being empowered by Thanos' Death Decree, and he generates enough power to play the tactics card Follow Me and allow Scarlet Witch to immediately activate. While she can use all of her own superpowers, anything that has already been used this turn, such as a character gaining power from Magneto's leadership ability or Thanos' Death Decree, cannot be used again, as it is still the same turn for the player, even though another character has activated. Other examples of when this can come into play are the husband and wife ability of Corvus and Proxima, A-Force's special delivery, and the tactics card All You've Got, which we'll cover in a bit more detail in a little while. Lastly then is the activation. This is when a single character gains their 2 actions and can perform their active superpowers and play active tactics cards. Things to note here are that at the end of a character's activation, a character resolves their own abilities first, such as Healing Factor, then resolve any enemy effects including Bleed, which we know isn't actually an enemy effect, then resolve any effects from crisis cards, such as the damage from holding the Kree Power Core if they didn't attack that activation. So this is a tactics card that I've used a lot personally in my Brotherhood roster. I think using it on a 6-threat Magneto is quite powerful in the game, especially when it's coupled with field dressing. But it's one that as I've played more and more characters with it, I've realised that what seems like something very simple at first, you get to take another activation, can actually lead to a few confusing points. So the first thing to point out is that All You've Got can only be used with characters that are threat 6 or less. Now when we're working out the threat level of a character, we combine the threat level of the card itself plus any gems that they are holding. So whilst Thanos is shown on the artwork itself, if you're taking him with any gem, you're not going to be able to use Thanos and a gem with this card. So you've spent your 4 power and you've activated that character again. Couple of things here. First of all, it is a brand new activation. So anything that happens at the end of your activation, so if you've got the healing factor, if you've got a bleed on you, if you're holding a Kree Power Core, you're going to heal damage, but then also take damage from those effects as well. But as we just covered, it is not a brand new turn, so any powers that are limited to once per turn cannot be used again here. Lastly then, when you've finished your second activation, this card dazes you. And yes, you do gain a daze token, you'll drop any objectives that you are holding, but you do not take any additional damage. So if you'd taken no damage prior to using this card, you daze yourself, and then your next turn, an ally uses field dressing on you, your character will become undazed, return to the game with full health. Well, okay, it kind of does, as we covered in our terrain section from the last video, but when we're working out ranges or using measurement tools, we always do this from a top-down or bird's eye view. This example here shows our old friend Luke Cage stood atop a lorry, this time targeting Cable with a range 3 Sweet Christmas. As you can see from this picture, if we measure from the edge of Luke's base down towards Cable, he is outside of range 3. This, however, is wrong, as we are only concerned with the distance between the 2 characters looking from above. And taking a look at this exact same scenario, only this time not moving the range 3 tool to accommodate the terrain Luke is standing on, we can see he's well within range to target Cable with his attack. It's also worth pointing out here that whilst it's really easy to measure on Tabletop Simulator, in person it can be a little bit more tricky, but feel free to use other range tools to help assist you with getting a more accurate measurement. As you can see from this picture, the range 2 finder was the perfect height to help me prop up the range 3 tool to see if I was in range. Lots of characters have the flurry ability, which basically allows them to follow up with an additional attack. Now, other examples include Deadpool's bang, 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 whichever it's called, things like rapid fire or saber-tooth finisher. But essentially they are triggers that allow you to follow up with an additional attack. Now the rules that we're going to go through, we can also apply them to any throws, pushes, and even applying power you gain after an attack is resolved as well. Now the key word here is after the attack is resolved, which is the time at which most of these abilities are triggered. However, many characters also have defensive abilities such as Sabertooth's Untamed Force, Venom's So Many Snacks, or Zemo's Counterattack that allow a defending character to retaliate also after an attack is resolved. So who gets to go first? Well, as with all things in Marvel Crisis Protocol, it comes down to timings, and this is another example where being the attacker means you get to resolve your abilities first. So let's take a look at a couple of examples. So here we can see Valkyrie, and she's going to perform a Dragon Fang into Venom. She rolls the wild needed to trigger Flurry, and can perform her follow-up strike before Venom can then use So Many Snacks. Venom, once again having a bad time of it and is being targeted by Thanos with his Cosmic Blast. Thanos rolls the wild needed for Titan's Will, allowing him to push Venom away short. Venom can now trigger So Many Snacks, but as Thanos was able to push him away, he is no longer within the range 3 needed to target Thanos, so cannot perform his superpower. Thanos is at it again, this time going up against Sabertooth and hitting him with his strike. Once again, he rolls the wild needed to trigger his throw. Now, the throw actually applies before damage is dealt, but this still means that Thanos can get Sabertooth outside of range 2, meaning he is unable to perform Untamed Force. Sabertooth, however, has 2 abilities that trigger after an effect is resolved against him. Untamed Force is retaliation attack, but also aggressive. As they both trigger at the same time, the defending character can choose which order to resolve them in, allowing him to advance the shot needed to get back within range 2, and then use Untamed Force to perform his Claw Slash. Sabertooth, this time the aggressor, is performing his Savage Predator into Venom. He rolls the wild and hit needed for finisher and decides to perform his free Claw Slash attack into Baron Zemo. Once both of these attacks are resolved, the defending character can choose to use both Counter Strike followed by So Many Snacks. Last example then, the one that caught a lot of people out in the game, and it's Medusa with her Braid Bash into Crossbones. She triggers the wild for the flurry, but the attack also lets her push the target away short. Choosing to bank her push and opting to perform her second Braid Bash, upon completion she is now able to push Crossbones away short twice, once from the initial attack and once from the second attack. Crossbones, however, has the aggressive ability, allowing him to advance short towards his attacker, but as he has been attacked twice, can in turn advance short twice back to where he started. Whilst we've just learned from the previous example with Medusa that some characters can bank certain after effects depending on when they can use them, stacking effects is slightly different. Each character is limited in that they can only be affected by the same named effect once at any one time. This means that if you attack Captain America with Venom's symbiote tendrils and apply bleed, his follow-up attack would not apply a second bleed condition. These same rules apply for every other condition token that you can dish out. It also means that characters such as Crossbones, who have the Haymaker or other similar abilities, could not pay 8 power and add 6 dice to his attack in total, as he cannot be affected by Haymaker twice at the same time. Now, May is a very understated keyword that once again catches a lot of players out. It's included on a number of abilities and powers, and because of its inclusion in some, we have to pay close attention when it isn't present. So we can look at Thanos' character card for 2 great examples of this. His first attack, Strike, allows him to throw the enemy short if he rolls a wild, but here it clearly states May. This means the attacking player gets to choose whether or not to perform the throw. Now this is key, as you may be planning on following up your first attack with another strike, and throwing your enemy away short may take them out of range 2. The key here is you have the choice. Now let's take a look at Thanos' other attack, Cosmic Blast. This has a similar trigger on a wild, this time pushing the enemy away short, but notice the absence of the word may. This means it is mandatory to push the target away irrespective of whether you want to or not. We see this a lot on attacks where characters can place themselves within one or a particular range of a character. Some of them say may, but a lot of them do not state may, therefore they are mandatory to use. We covered pushes and throws in our last video, but one thing I didn't mention was the fact that we ignore the model who is actually performing the push or throw. Let's jump over and take a quick look at an example. So Luke Cage has performed a Sweet Christmas against Mr. Sinister, but as his throw does not stay away, he can throw him in any direction. Now Luke would love to throw Sinister into Cable and force him to make a dodge save, and because we always ignore the model who is performing the attack, he can. And lastly then is another one that caught me out when I first started playing the game, and one that I still see players doing today, is using injured characters to break a tie when contesting an objective. An injured character only ever comes into play if there are no healthy characters contesting that objective. So healthy Sinister and an injured Mystique do not beat out a healthy Cable. Both players have one healthy character contesting, therefore it would be a tie. And there we are, guys. There are 11 more rules that catch players out whilst playing Marvel Crisis Protocol, both old and new. Please leave me any other suggestions and comments down in the comment section below for any other rules that have caught you out whilst playing Marvel Crisis Protocol that you'd like to see me cover in these videos. And when we hit that magic number of 11, I'll put another video together and put it out there. If you could, hit that subscribe button. It really does help me grow the channel and lets me know that you guys are liking the content that I'm making. And it also makes sure that you will be put into our prize draw for the month of July, where you could win a brand new character pack from Marvel Crisis Protocol. As always, guys, it leaves me with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, bye for now.